All right, and a good Sunday to you. Welcome to another episode of JD's Deep Cut Sunday Tracks, where you can get all the info on the not so known bands, not so known songs, obscure songs. In today's edition, we're going to talk about a band that definitely was very underground, very obscure, in the US at least. They've gotten a little bit more of a following nowadays. 80s, 90s, but they never were a big success here in the US. They did get a little bit of airplay in a couple of cities, but they were bigger in Europe. But even over there, they weren't like a mega star, till kind of later after their career. Talking about Budgie. Budgie was a 70s progenitor of the hard rock movement. They came out in early 70, 71 with the first album. Album we're going to be talking about today is their fourth album, In for the Kill. This is a really good album. It's a hard rock, very ahead of its time when it came out in 74. Budgie was a big influence on the new wave of British heavy metal. That term, wasn't in existence when they were doing their type of music. But if you listen to their early stuff, like this one, it's very heavy for the time, at least. Even now, I mean, you crank it up, it's really really good. In for the Kill was produced by the band, but I know a couple of songs were produced by Roger Bain, which was of Black Sabbath fame, and you could definitely hear the influence. Both bands, not similar sound, but heavy, both heavy bands. A lot of it had to do with the producer. The song we're going to talk about on this album is Crash Course in Brain Surgery. That song, great song. I mean, the first two songs on side A, side one, just in your face heavy. They had a lot of blues influence. It's a Welsh band, Wales. That's why I like to talk about these types of bands. I mean, who would expect a band from Wales, hard rock, heavy, early 70s, come to find out later, I mean, wow, they're from Wales, not expected. Wouldn't expect that type of stuff from Wales, at least. I mean, England, of course, there's a ton of bands. Four godfathers, I think, of a lot of the heavy metal movement. Germany, Europe in general, But like Wales, you don't really hear. Like Ireland, I mean, there's a couple bands out of there. But Wales, yeah, you don't hear at least this type of music. England, yes, there's a lot. Coventry, Liverpool, got a lot of great bands coming out of there. But Budgie was very ahead of its time. They were distributed by MCA in the U.S., but again, not never got the break. Kind of until later. How they influenced the new wave of British heavy metal, when Saxon came about, late 80s, early 80s. You had Iron Maiden coming out, with the early Def Leppard, all of these bands will tell you, oh, I was in a lot of our influence was from Budgie. Diamond Head was another one. There's a little cult following with all of these bands, Diamond Head, Tigers of Pang Tang, you got Trapeze, Budgie. Check these bands out, if you're into that type of music. But it's a really good start. Like, you can kind of hear how they influenced all of the 80s bands, Judas Priest. Priest was out in the early 70s as well. But how they influenced this new wave of British heavy metal that came out, late 70s, early 80s. You can definitely hear it. And then when you listen to this, it's like, wow, they were doing it in 1974. And I could kind of see why they were, they were on the forefront. They were the godfathers of this movement. So when they were doing this stuff, it was new. It was like new, stuff to a lot of people. And it was probably like, oh, what the hell is this, But there was a following. I mean, Black Sabbath got huge. They did get the mass following in the U.S. But maybe that's why, because Black Sabbath was just blowing up everywhere. Budgie didn't get that due, I think, because Tony Borges is a great guitar player. Bert Shelley, amazing bass player. He has a high pitched voice, kind of reminds you of Geddy Lee a little bit. I think Rush, you could definitely hear how they were similar influence. I think, you know, reciprocated probably. But yeah, Budgie, check out Budgie. I love Budgie. They're great. Their albums are very hard to find. Hard finds. The album before this, Never Turn Your Back on a Friend. That's a great album too. Metallica did a couple of their songs covered, and which probably brought them back. That kind of helped them out a little bit. Bread Fans, the song they did, and they also did the Crash Course in Brain Surgery. But yeah, when you listen to it, you crank it up. It's like, wow, this song could have came out in the mid '80s. But '74, can you imagine? Came out in 1974, and they were already belting out these types of tunes, very ahead of their time. And Tony Borges' guitar tone is just amazing. The stuff he was doing back then, I think very underrated guitar player, I think. He shredded all over a lot of these other guitars that came out in the 80s. There's a few out there. A lot of good ones, don't get me wrong, but, for the credit he got, I think he deserved a little bit more. Very underrated, I think. And the vocals, they're high pitched, they're good. They went through a series of drummers. I think Pete Boot was the drummer for this album. And then they had Steve Williams. They went through 4 or 5 different drummers, which tends to happen for some reason. To play this type of music, you really got to have a tight drummer, versatile drummer and stuff. He was, the music, the arrangements of the songs call for that. You can't have just a basic beat drummer. Metal and hard rock require, a lot of intensity in the drums, a lot of coordination, a lot of rolls, and a lot of different, different sounds and the toms and stuff. But yeah, you got it for the type of music. It just calls for it. You just have to have a pounding drummer with great timing as well. But I mean, the drummers they went through were good. I think this was my favorite drummer from them. Pete Boot was his name. I don't know what ended up happening with him. But yeah, check out Budgie. Budgie's a great early '70s hard rock band that influenced big time the new wave of British heavy metal movement. Their name always comes up, but they weren't a new wave of British heavy metal. It's kind of weird. Just a hard rock act, ahead of its time, early '70s. I think the last album Tony did with them was Impeccable, which I have as well, which we can talk about in another episode. Okay, so yeah, there you go. Crash Course in Brain Surgery from Budgie, and I'll put the Metallica link there so you can check it out. I like the original. Metallica's good, but the original is like just because the time it came out, all the stuff they were doing, But yeah, I'll put the link so you can check the song out. So check out Budgie. Great hard rock early '70s obscure band. In this case. All right, well, have a good one. Have a good rest of your Sunday and enjoy. I'll see you on the next one.